Welcome on into the Cougar Tracks podcast post-game drive. It's 3:20 in the morning, the wee hours of Saturday. I'm leaving LaVell Edwards Stadium as the Cougars remain undefeated, 7-0, after taking down the Oklahoma State Cowboys 38-35. And on my late night drive from LaVell Edwards Stadium back to Murray, Utah, I'm going to talk to you, share my thoughts on this BYU game, and wow, are there so many thoughts to unpack. First off, if you're new here, appreciate you listening to the show, and for all the regular listeners, appreciate you as always. I'm Mitch Harper, your BYU insider for KSLSports.com. You can follow me on X, Instagram, all the socials, at Mitch_Harper. Follow KSL Sports too, and download the KSL Sports app. Folks, what did we just witness? Number 13 BYU takes down Oklahoma State 38-35 in a game where BYU looked dead. They had 73 seconds left to pull off 75 yards. They got it done. Jake Retzlaff, Darius Lassiter, Chase Roberts over the middle with a fourth down conversion. They made it happen. What's amazing about this moment, one, it's the best come-from-behind victory in the Kalani Sitake era. Kalani's teams historically, since he took over in 2016, they don't pull off wins like that. They just don't. Maybe the opponent collapses, i.e. Wisconsin in 2018, but you don't see BYU force the issue and they generate the late score to get it done. That's new territory for Kalani Sitake teams. The game didn't go according to plan either. And look, going into this matchup, I always felt that, man, Mike Gundy's going to have a few tricks up his sleeve, man. And Ollie Gordon was an absolute beast. And again, for those of you who are new listening to this post-game drive, I got my hands on the wheel, microphone clipped to my shirt, so I don't have the exact stats. I'm going off memory. But if I get a few things off, understand I'm driving so I can focus on the road. But Ollie Gordon, he ends up with, I think it was 107 yards. Second 100-yard performance for Ollie Gordon. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground. I think he had a receiving one where he hurdled Falatau Satuala. Ollie Gordon was brilliant. He got banged up, though, a couple times. Isaiah Glasker was laying the hit stick. But you knew Gundy would have something there. And he goes with Garrett Rangel, out of the bye week. He gets banged up in the second quarter, and then in comes Alan Bowman again. And keep in mind, Zane Flores, the third-string quarterback, probably would have been second string, but he's out for the season due to injury. So Alan Bowman gets his 9th life. He's like a cat. He's got 9 lives, and he showed well. I mean, he put together a 17-play drive on BYU's defense to put the Pokes up 35-31. And again, BYU had about 73 seconds left, a minute 13, to put something together. And what's impressive, too, about the performance late from Jake Retzlaff in this BYU offense, they weren't a well-oiled machine by any stretch. Jake was having a little bit of an off night. He had 2 interceptions, hovering around 50% completion rate. His left arm at the end of the first half looked like it got banged up a little bit. Left shoulder, he was fine. But it wasn't, a perfect night for Jake. And look, Jake's kind of that guy where I've always said he's going to give you a handful of throws that are just brilliant. But he's also going to give you a couple throws that going to keep you on the edge of your seat. I think Steve Young said it best. He's kind of a swashbuckler. It's a little bit what he is, but guess what? He got the job done. To get a 2-minute drive, he thrived in that spot. He said in postgame that that's what he loves the most. And he showed it with his play because BYU teams, I think a lot of fans in that LaVell Edwards Stadium, sellout crowd, more than 62,000 fans in attendance tonight. The energy that they put off felt like okay, BYU's going to have to go back to the drawing board. Undefeated season over. Margin for error for at-large bid this, at-large that, playoff bid, probably out the door. Because BYU teams just typically don't do what they just did. That's the type of win, what happened tonight. That creates a generation of BYU fans. That creates memories for people that they're going to want to recapture that for years on end. And you might never in your lifetime see a win like that again. And it doesn't matter that Oklahoma State's 3-4 and 0-4 in Big 12 play. When the chips are down, it is hard against anyone, against air, to put together that efficient of a drive late and get the game-winning score. Darius Lassiter revealed in the postgame that the touchdown pass from Retzlaff to Lassiter was initially intended for JoJo Phillips. Kind of an interesting tidbit there, which in many respects says a lot about how they view JoJo in clutch moments, deep threat, big play. Thought that's kind of revealing. But that drive was big for BYU because special teams have to have close calls. It's just what they do. Everyone gets them. Everyone on a magical season, you're going to have some games where you got to escape. And I just can't help but think of what kind of better way to honor the 1984 team, 40th anniversary, awesome drone show in the pregame. 40th anniversary. More than 50 players from that 1984 team were in attendance on Friday night. And they see a game like that. To me, was this 2024's version of 1984 at Hawaii? Where, the opponent's not great, but they got dudes. Oklahoma State's got talent. There's no shortage of that. You saw that. And they were banged up. They got talent. And you found a way to get it done. It's hard to not think that maybe BYU's a team of destiny. Just maybe they are. And you look at how the schedule stacks up. You play the schedule game and you go, oh, UCF, Ja'Cory Brown at quarterback, back up. Isaac Wilson, back up at quarterback. Jalen Daniels struggling mightily in that offense. Sam Levitt, Arizona State, banged up. Might have to go to Sims for an extended period of time. November 30th, Houston, backup quarterback Zian Chris. Are the stars aligning here for BYU? But you got to give credit to players making the plays and making it happen. That 4th and 6 to Chase Roberts over the middle, clutch. Huge pass from Retzlaff. Then the run. There was, in between that was the pass to Keanu Hill, and in that moment, it could have been easy to say, okay, they're toast, because they complete the pass. It's for about 2 or 3 yards. Kebo stays in bounds. They got to burn a timeout. You're thinking, it's just not their night. They're not going to get it done. But then Retzlaff turns on the Jets, runs for 27 yards, and you're thinking, now there's a real chance because they're at the Oklahoma State 35-yard line. 2 plays later, after they clock it, Darius Lassiter for a touchdown. Massive moment for BYU football this season, BYU football history, and surviving and advancing and creating still that space, that margin for error in the Big 12 title race. Massive moment for BYU football. And you get a win on a night when the defense, I don't want to say let you down, but dang, they couldn't get a stop on that final drive. It was 6 or 7 third or fourth down conversions from Oklahoma State. That was a complete 180 from the BYU defense we've seen all season. Alan Bowman was doing it through the air and on the ground. Keep in mind, Alan Bowman started 0 of 5, had 1 interception, And he was struggling. I thought when Rangel went out, I thought, okay, BYU's going to probably take care of business now, because they were down at the half 21-14, BYU was. And Ollie Gordon looked like he couldn't be stopped. But then Rangel goes down, and you're thinking, okay, Bowman was benched for a reason. But he reemerged. So credit to him for digging in and putting Oklahoma State in a spot to potentially win that game. But BYU had the answers. And it was just one of those nights, too, where it felt like BYU never had the upper hand once Oklahoma State countered immediately after BYU's opening drive. That opening drive from BYU, first pass, 50-yard bomb to Darius Lassiter, thinking, okay, BYU's going to make a statement. They're going to come out here and just thump Oklahoma State. Not so fast. I mean, Oklahoma State then puts together a drive of their own. Rangel's popping off some big runs. Ollie Gordon was brilliant. I mean, the way that he was shedding tackles, that guy is a superstar, and you just think, how on earth was he struggling at all this season? How? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Because he looked great against BYU. And then Oklahoma State took the lead at 14-7, and BYU countered. But then once Oklahoma State took that lead, you just thought, okay, this game's on, and it just felt a little bit like an off night for BYU. It was a little bit disjointed, everything. The positives, though, throughout were the running backs, L.J. Martin in particular. L.J. had a career performance for BYU. Had 20 carries, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns for L.J. Martin. I spoke glowingly about him last week throughout the offseason and fall camp. L.J. Martin's a stud. And L.J., on a night where Ollie Gordon's star shined bright, L.J.'s was just as bright. And it was, great running back play being highlighted once again in a league that has the best running backs in college football, that being the Big 12. And LJ kind of laid claim that he should be viewed among the best running backs in this league. Now, statistically, he's still a far cry from, the rushing leaders in this league. But what's exciting for BYU is that you're at Game 7, and L.J. Martin's kind of fresh. He's navigated some injuries with the shoulder and then the ankle, but he hasn't been taking the wear and tear, the hits, the mileage that you experience over the course of a season. He's going into the second half of the year looking fresh, and that kind of stood out to me in that game, where you've got a guy that, yes, he's been banged up, but he hasn't taken many tackles. He didn't get hit in fall camp, so he's getting ready for this second half run for BYU, and he's looking like he's ready to go. That was the healthiest I've seen L.J. Martin since spring ball, but definitely since the SMU game in week 2. And notice in both the SMU and Oklahoma State games, early and often getting the ball to L.J. Martin and letting him set the tone. He is a tone setter for this offense. He has incredible abilities. L.J. Martin's a good one for BYU. I thought Hinckley did a nice job too. I can't remember exactly. I think it was like 50 yards he ended up with. Hinckley did. I thought he had some really nice runs to set BYU up. And then, Jake too. He ended up with 9 carries for 81 yards. Obviously highlighted by the 27-yarder on the final drive of the game. BYU's defense, it wasn't all doom and gloom. They did have moments that reminded everyone of K-State and Arizona. You're thinking, oh, here we go. BYU's doing it again. They're doing the thing. They're doing the thing where they're just going to take over. This is how we do. That's what I was thinking they were probably saying. Tanner Wall gets a pick. Tommy Parasis comes up with a pick. The Tanner Wall pick sets BYU up with a 1-yard drive, and they punch it in with an L.J. Martin touchdown. You love that BYU's defense has the ability to create takeaways. Because in years past, BYU in a 3-turnover night where they cough it up that much, it's over. Ball game done. Because previous defenses never had that ability to maybe make it even. And that is a nice, promising attribute. I mean, BYU was still -1 in turnovers. But to even get it close to that, I mean, again, a night where you give up 3 turnovers, historically in the Kalani era, that was a disaster waiting to happen for BYU, just because many of these Kalani-led defenses have never been able to generate the takeaways. This group's different. And tonight, again, it's going to be, go back to the drawing board in some respects and bounce back. But still, to their core, it's a physical defense, really talented. They were without a few guys. Sione Moa at linebacker, who got banged up in the Arizona game. Che Bryant-Strother was out. So I had to dig into your depth a little bit at linebacker, but still, I'm still bullish on the outlook of BYU's defense going forward in the final 5 games. And I think, again, it's a positive sign that you can win a ball game in a variety of ways. You don't want to win games like this every week. This will it'd be taxing on the soul to have that close of calls every single week, but it's a good thing, I think, for this BYU team to dig in and win like that, because you clearly didn't come anywhere close to playing your best football, and you got room to grow, and you still escaped with a victory against an Oklahoma State team that I don't know what direction they honestly go at this point. Does the season just kind of fold up shop after this loss? I could see that happening. I don't envision them making a bowl game. But again, that's a team coming out of the bye, tough spot to take on a Gundy-led team, and BYU takes them down. Some individual players on the defensive side that caught my attention. Harrison Taggart had a big night. I think he ended up with about 10 or 11 tackles in the game. Isaiah Glasker, National Defensive Player of the Week in college football, the Chuck Bednarik Award this past week. Good once again. 8 tackles. As I noted earlier, the hits that he was laying on Ollie Gordon. Back-to-back plays for Gordon. He takes hits from Glasker. He goes out. And you hate to see that, because Ollie Gordon's such a special talent. You want to see those guys play and see BYU compete and adjust in-game to those players. But, man, Glasker was laying some hits. And that guy just continues to get better and better. He's one of the best interviews, I think, on this BYU football team. His confidence just continues to grow. I was also kind of impressed with Faletau Satuala. Now, I know he got hurdled, and that's never fun for a young guy to go through that, especially from a guy like Doak Walker winner Ollie Gordon. But, he had a nice shoestring tackle. He was getting valuable snaps in the second quarter. Faletau was kind of an interesting safety rotation for Jay Hill on Friday night. You thought that in stretches, I'm thinking, is Crew Wakely banged up? I didn't see him. But Crew Wakely, he was there, and he had ended up with about 5 or 6 tackles, if memory serves me right. So BYU's going to want to get better. The speed on the edges from Oklahoma State, their wide receivers, caused some problems. And I'm kind of curious, honestly, to look back, rewatch this game and kind of see where some of the issues were. I thought Mark Collins still had a few nice plays. Jacob Robinson, I thought, was excellent. There was that pass breakup, the no-fly zone hand sign that he had. Robinson, I continue to pound the table. He's one of the best DBs in the Big 12, and that's saying something in a league that has Travis Hunter. So I really believe that. He is one of the best defensive backs in this conference that has the best player defensive back and all-around player in Travis Hunter. Cougs are victorious, taking down the Pokes 38-35. Huge win. Again, this is an all-time win in BYU football history. In the Kalani Sitake era of wins, I'd have to think about it to see, where it kind of ranks, because Kalani, man, his era. I know that people coming into the year were kind of down and out about Kalani and the prospects of the football program, but Kalani's got this ability to just deliver big wins. And in the Big 12, every game is big. This is an all-timer. And I'm kind of curious to honestly stack up all the wins that he's compiled, because there's been some great wins, and I don't want to miss any of them on my drive back home at 3:41 in the morning right now as I record this. But my initial knee-jerk reaction is this is going to be top 5? I mean, this is a good one. Just because you're suddenly talking about a team, and I asked Kalani this, are you guys a team of destiny? Because I really feel like, and Kalani downplayed that and said it's back to work, and I get that, that's coach speak, but there's something about this team, and it's been talked about since spring ball, where their mindset, and it was just kind of another full circle moment for this group, because the heartbreak that they experienced in Stillwater last year, that was a crushing loss, ended their season, no postseason, 5-7, had to take the L, couldn't get it done, 5-game losing streak, all that. And then 1 year later, you're faced with the chance of maybe losing to Oklahoma State again, but you were resilient, you broke through and got it done. Special teams got to find ways to win in a variety of ways, and this team can do that. And who would have thought with this group that they could win in a variety of ways? It wouldn't just be one style of way to path to victory. Because you thought, okay, if they get to 6 wins, it's going to be, they got to have a certain recipe to get to wins. Like, no. Doesn't matter what's stacked in front of them, they're finding ways to get the W. And that's just an impressive trait for a team that maybe they're a team of destiny. Maybe they are. Maybe they are just destined that they are going to be in Arlington. And I bring up Arlington because then you're 60 minutes away, potentially win or lose, if you go undefeated, or 1 loss. We'll see how the schedules and how everything shakes out, but you're 60 minutes away from the playoff, maybe win or lose. So it's an impressive moment right now for BYU football. Yet they still have opportunities to get significantly better. I was also happy, too, for Caleb Etienne. Caleb obviously lost his position along the offensive line at Oklahoma State. And, Mike Gundy was pretty candid about Caleb Etienne back in April 2023 when he left and committed to BYU. Gundy just put it out there. He said he lost the job. And great moment for Etienne, because that's a guy that's one of the most improved players in the football program. And I really believe, and I've said it before, I think he's going to be an NFL draft pick. I think he's going to find a way to become an NFL player. If not a draft pick, a definite high-priority undrafted free agent that's first off the board the moment the 7th round ends. Etienne has done a really good job for BYU this year, and I can only imagine that was just a really special moment for him to get that win tonight, because that had to have been tough. You lose your job, you go on the move, you had all the struggles last year, and then it works out well for you tonight. And he's a key piece for BYU going forward. Bruce Mitchell had another nice game. BYU gave up a little more pressures to Oklahoma State than they did against Arizona. So there's room to kind of get back to the drawing board on that front. Austin Leausa as well got the start. Sonny Mocassini was suited up, played with the second team offensive line at center. So, and another positive note coming out of this game, BYU didn't suffer many injuries. Now, we'll see how, again, when the adrenaline comes down, how everyone feels like Lassiter and Jake Retzlaff. So that's going to be areas to monitor going into UCF week, but relatively healthy. There was not many moments that I can recall where the blue tent went up. And so much talk this offseason was about the scientists, the sports medical staff, the strength and conditioning. So far, knock on wood for that BYU team, it's working because that injury list was not that deep going into the game. It was Cody Epps, it was Connor Pay, it was Sione Moa, and Shea Bryant-Strother, and then Marcus McKenzie as well. Not too bad. You know, there was a few other deep roster guys, but relatively healthy considering the 7th game of the season after just playing, 6 days prior. It was a short week. And that should be remembered too, is that, yes, you were at home, but still quick turnaround, all the accolades, tune out the noise, you just got it done. And when you're in a power conference league like the Big 12, it don't matter about style points. It matters just getting the W. And BYU, that's what they got on Friday night into early Saturday morning. That's going to do it for this edition of the Cougar Tracks podcast, post-game drive. BYU 38, Oklahoma State 35. Cougs are 7-0. Have more breakdown coming up on Saturday afternoon with Matt Biamonte on Cougar Sports Saturday, noon to 3. And then Monday, you'll be taking your phone calls on Cougar Nation, 6 to 7 p.m. Myself and Matt will be taking your phone calls, and I hope to hear from all of you. 801-575-8255. Call in, share your memories, your moments, your favorite thoughts about this win over Oklahoma State as the Cougs pull off a last-minute drive to get it done. Storybook stuff, man, from BYU this season. Appreciate all of you. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. And I'll talk to you next time here on the Cougar Tracks podcast. It's powered by KSLSports.com.